Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. I have continued over the years to advocate for the enactment of laws to deal with perpetrators of human rights abuse and corruption by those who transfer assets to use them in countries which are usually democratic and financially stable. Can I thank you, Senator Kitching, for your comments and for the strong sentiment with which you expressed, and I know that those of us who have been on this journey agree very much with the sentiment of your comments. You outlined the history of the Magnitsky legislation following the death of lawyer Sergei Magnitsky and the work that Bill Browder has focused on and the efforts internationally to bring human rights perpetrators to the front line of responsibility and introducing of targeted sanctions. Now, this type of legislation has been introduced. Standalone Magnitsky legislation has been introduced in various countries, and I was very pleased that the Joint Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade, of which I'm a member, has recommended that we enact world-leading law to apply targeted sanctions to perpetrators of serious human rights abuse and corruption, to align Australia with the global movement and to seek those, to limit those opportunities for those human rights abusers, corrupt officials and their beneficiaries to enjoy the proceeds of their abuse. Now, the recommendations that were made by the committee were aimed at strengthening our commitment to protect human rights, including banning entry of perpetrators to Australia and the capacity to seize assets, and therefore a proper and targeted sanctions legislation will make Australian places and institutions off limits to people who have profited from unconscionable conduct. I would have liked to have seen standalone legislation enacted rather than an extension of the framework, the sanctions framework that we are now adopting. Having said that, I think, though, this is a very good start to legislation. I'm pleased that we are adopting the amendments that are going to be proposed by the Labor Party, as I understand, and most especially to ensure that the name Magnitsky is included in the title to emphasise the important links with the global movement. I am disappointed, though, that we are not going to have a watch list of people being considered for sanctioning, given that many of them come from the range of authoritarian regimes that certainly Senator Kitching referred to. And of course I have in the past made comments, particularly in relation to the communist regime in China and its skullduggery. I note that perhaps in the past there has been a reluctance and resistance to a full-blown Magnitsky standalone sanctions legislation. And whilst I think this legislation is a good step in the right direction, I do think that ultimately there is scope for us to strengthen and enhance that framework into the future.
Thank you, Senator Fierravanti-Wells.